Appreciate it very much. That was our human connection block. We saw the film Will and Tess by Ray Devoto Robinson. Thank you very much for that wonderful film. Greg here is a friend of the festival. You've had a film in the festival previously, and you collaborated with Ray numerous times, including these two have also shot a film in Klamath Falls that has been in our festival previously. Sarah, we met earlier with your KIFF college film, and you also were the producer of the Darcel documentary. And Giorgio, who is joining us online, hello sir, is a Portland-based filmmaker who made the last film we just saw, Vagrant, about stray dogs in Italy. And then in addition, we saw film Metal, Visions, and Marta's Gift. So first of all, Giorgio, I'm sure people are curious as to how an Oregon-based filmmaker ends up making a documentary in Sicily and finds this one random person. How did you get connected with that?
Well, the front part of that question is the easy part. I was born in Sicily, so in many ways, Sicily is my home. It very much has felt that way throughout my life. And so, this is sort of a personal piece. And in terms of connecting with Stefano and Giorgio and Marco and Elena, there's just a vast network of folks that are looking to combat this problem. So it's through a combination of family and friends.
Wonderful. And as a reminder to our audience, if you have questions for any of our filmmakers, we have a microphone right there and a microphone right there that you can use. We'll be happy to address our filmmakers. Sarah, hello again, and thank you for working on Darcel on Life, Love, and Die. Darcel was an iconic figure in the city of Portland. In fact, was involved with the beauty pageant involved down here as well. So, very fortunate that you got to work on this when you did, because right at the very tail end of completion was when Walter passed away. So, I know there's a giant celebration in Portland. So, can you tell us a little bit about the postscript from the film?
So, the content that you saw there at the end came about because we were in the process of working with the Oregonian to share this piece. And this piece was really completed in 2021. But they knew, the editor of the video content at Oregonian knew that we had this relationship with Darcel. So the day after Walter died, I was hired by the Oregonian to go down to the Darcel 15 showplace and shoot and film. So that's what you're seeing at the very end there is some of that content. I was able to re-interview Bandy Oley at that time, who was his caregiver and was one of the people who was with him when he died the night prior. The Oregonian not only licensed our piece, but then there was the follow-up social media piece with some of that other content that you saw there.
Wonderful. And Ray, no stranger to our festival. You've been here many times over. Hello, sir. Wonderful to see you again.
Kind of a mainstay, and I kind of look at this, but the shortest guy up here's got a mic at the highest level. I'm just going to put it right here, try to be nice and close to it.
You've had numerous films in our festival over the course of the years, and thank you for being here as well for all 3 days to partake in all of our Oregon filmmaking. I hope you've had a wonderful time.
This is such a great event, and thank you for all the effort, you and all the volunteers at Cassidy. I'm so grateful that this festival exists in this region. And I love attending the theater, it's beautiful, so I can't break this habit of making independent films, so I guess I'm going to keep coming back till I can't drag myself over here anymore, but thanks, it's been wonderful.
So this film, Will and Tess, comes from personal experience, right?
It does. A couple years ago, visiting my parents who live in Montana, in their own place on a lake around southwest of Glacier Park. And my dad's 90, my mom's 96, and just trying to get them to do some of the things that would allow us to help them, very frustrated and decided to write a script just to vent more than anything else. And as I did, it did become more loving of the story, I feel, if that represents my anger at the time. I really made it for myself, just to vent, and also for my sibling, who I know were experiencing the same kind of frustrations of concern with our parents who are, what I try to convey in the film is they live alone, away from other people. They don't have a social circle. And honestly, it would not surprise me if I discover my dad's died and 2 days later I find out about it because my mom doesn't know what to do. And they're that aspect.
And Ray, you had an opportunity to work on this film as you have with many of Ray's films. We've also shown one of your films previously, a wonderful, loving tribute to classic Twilight Zone and Outer Limits episodes that was very fun. So getting to collaborate on a project like this, did you have, beyond working with Ray so often, do you have a personal connection to this story arc as well, and a sentimental connection?
Yeah, well, so as Ray asked me to film this, my dad's 83 now, and I can totally relate. He's not in his 90s, but just the desperation of like knowing what's happening with your parents as you age. Nobody tells you, when you're in your 40s and 50s and 60s that you're going to be taking care of your parents. I mean, obviously that's, everybody realizes that's what will happen eventually. But I think the film that Ray wrote, I think really, that just takes that responsibility and burden. It's like, how do you communicate with your parents when they're, in their 80s and 90s? And how do you make sure that they still have a great life, but you're also part of their life in that sense? So I guess that was my connection.
Wonderful. Giorgio, let's go back to your film, Vagrant. Your film had some interesting demographic information in terms of the stray dog population throughout Italy. You shot it in Sicily, focusing on one individual. So the question becomes beyond the content that you really provided. What sort of efforts are being made to either care or curtail this ongoing issue? And is it an issue across the entire country, or is it also a Sicilian problem?
Let's work our way backwards. There is a pervasiveness about this issue throughout the country. I would say that it's particularly noticeable in the southern parts of Italy. At the risk of kind of qualifying the general population of Italy, there is a similar sort of dynamic between north and south and sort of coastal and central, United States that sort of pervades there in Italy, and then that's just sort of a rough comparison. However, the issue of stray dogs is throughout, and it's particularly noticeable in Sicily because of the volume and the population. But what's being done? I think that the best answer I have for that is one of Giorgio's line, Giorgio Piacente, who says that the stray dogs, as awful as the situation is like a little contorno, a side dish, something that he associates with his home country as a sort of an inevitable situation, and one that is hopeless in a country where the government is just struggling to make lasting changes. And on this subject, it kind of gets the back seat. There's a gloom about it. I wish I could paint a better picture for you, but it is just the way it is. And so the efforts that are being spearheaded by these groups, which are, about as grassroots as you can get. There really is no such thing as, SPCA. you know, any of these groups are state municipalities. You know, these are state-run kennels that get, you know, minimum funding, and it's just it's just an exhaustive problem. So what has to change is the culture, and that's coming from the youth predominantly. But if you ask Stefano, I think he'd say that it's never going to change.
Yes, have you encountered in your travels throughout Italy other people like Stefano who are also working to try to address this issue?
I have. I've actually, on my way home, this was actually a really, not to get too into the nitty gritty of the schedule, but there was a really limited time to shoot this. I was in Palermo for this shoot for 3 days. So we really had limited access to the subjects. But of course, on my way back to the airport, my Uber driver essentially is sort of connecting me to a sort of a whole string of, you know, of people that are doing this exact kind of work, and it's you know, it's fractured. It's individual groups that are, you know, bootstrapping it together. There's kind of nothing like what we have in this country, which, you know, I think that a lot of people would say that we're wrestling with a big problem with that here. You know, not to the degree that Italy does, because of that special designation that the dogs get. That they're protected in this you know, never-ending kind of situation. One little just I think that thing that for me exemplified the issue, and it's in one of the time lapses that you saw in the piece. There's a dog sitting at this is by the beach, Mondello, which is right by the and this little guy is just, you know, he's sitting there, and people are coming and going, throwing sandwiches down, and the dog just, you know, he just doesn't want to have anything to do. He's so accustomed to this situation. It's not it's almost not even a desperate situation for the dogs, that particular dog, because this has been the life. Of course, he could get run over at any second. Any number of things can happen, including being poisoned out in the sort of in the towns, sort of outside the city. That's sort of more of a prevalent thing there. So. What I will say is that I do think that there's more meat on the bone, and I very much look forward to returning to Italy and sort of developing this story more, and really coming at it at more of a political angle. I can say that sorry to monopolize the time, you'll notice that this film hasn't played in Italy. And there's a reason. We haven't submitted it to Italy, to any festivals in Italy. There's a lot of great festivals in Italy. And the reason that we haven't submitted it is because Stefano is scared that his neighbors will take action against him and that he will not be able to do the things that he does to save these dogs, and the dogs will be taken away from him, or he doesn't know. And so I look forward to really kind of getting under this issue in terms of how the other side of the issue, the people that are curbing the population on their own in some of the most savage ways, I think that's possibly where this story goes next, into the politics of it.
Well, you mentioned you're planning to go back. I think there's a lot of people in this room that would be happy to be a PA or a DP if you're planning to go to Italy anytime soon.
Well, I'm in Portland, and I'd love to meet you all. You know, drop me a line. I'd love to. You know, I'm new in Oregon, been for 2 years, and I just let me just say, because I don't have an opportunity to echo some of the sentiments. It's a remarkable festival that you all put together, and I'm just so happy to be a first-time filmmaker to participate from Atlanta, unfortunately out of town.
Sarah, Darcel has been for decades an absolute iconic figure in the state of Oregon, certainly in the city of Portland, but it'd be well beyond Portland's borders. But at what point did the decision come along to do an extended profile of not only Darcel, but the man behind Darcel?
So this piece was also a part of the program that I was in at the University of Oregon, and I did a multimedia journalism program. It was a 2-year program, So some of my classmates were focusing on issues around the homeless population there, others were focusing on newer businesses, and I really wanted to focus on Darcel. And at that particular time, the showplace had just been designated as a landmark for the National Register of Historic Places, which was very, very unusual. Normally that doesn't happen when the proprietor is still living. But this was an exceptional situation. And that was really the jumping off point for this project. But as we began to talk with people, the issue of Darcel's age and what that meant to his friends and caregiver and himself became part of the interviews and part of the conversation. And the director, Christina, really found that to be the most sort of endearing part. So that was the direction we ended up going ultimately. And we knew that it was going to have its day. And of course, that came a little sooner than we all anticipated.
Well, it's nice that your film humanizes that element because drag queens on a national scale recently have been vilified very much so in national news. And to the point where a couple months ago I was putting up posters around town for an unrelated event to this, and someone kind of stopped me and said, "You don't cater to drag queens, do you?" And I just kind of shrugged it off, walked away, and then I thought, drag queen catering actually sounds like an amazing business idea. And for months I've been thinking, like, at some point I should start a drag queen catering business. That sounds like a lot of fun. So I love any opportunity where when there are certain sects of our society that are being vilified and othered, that we can put a face to it and a personality and realize we're all just little people. So that's one. Ray and Greg, let's talk a little bit about casting because your film is so carried by the test character. Finding the right person for that role, did that just come together naturally, or was that a real struggle to find the perfect person to portray that?
Oh, it wasn't. I've known Marlon for a number of years, and I've had her in numerous films, and it's sort of one of the nice things of working in Southern Oregon is a lot of incredible actors retire from LA, leave LA, and they land in Southern Oregon. But they still want to act. I've discovered more and more of those people, and they just continue to want to act. So Marlon being one of those people, Mark Schneider and other ones, and in this latest film feature film that we're working on right now, Greg and I are working on, Twinnis is working on up there. I've found even more union actors, SAG actors, experienced actors that have moved to our area, not necessarily because they're retired, but one that I'm thinking of in particular, who had a child. Their daughter was like 7. It's like, we're not raising our child in LA. So they moved up to Southern Oregon. So, and she wants to act, so I'm glad to cast you at minimum SAG scale. Sorry, I shouldn't have probably said that, especially with this writing. And the writer. I really loved when I heard the Rhinestone Cowboy theme start. I almost went, they're going to show the Rhinestone Cowboy routine, but then you cut. But it's kind of like, oh yeah, remember that? That was like one of my favorite routines of Darcel. So nice to see.
In the interest of time to stay on schedule, unfortunately, we do need to wrap things up. We have one more block to go, and then our awards tonight. Thank you, audience, for hanging with us. But real quick, any final words on your films that you would like to share with our audience?
Sure, lots of fireworks. No, it's just that I think when I said that I made this really more for me and my siblings, that in talking to other people, I think there is a lot in there for people to think about, and maybe it gets people thinking or starts opening up some conversations about what happens as we get older, because the truth is we're all going to die. And if you're fortunate enough, as I am, to have parents living into their 90s, it becomes a question, and it becomes something we need to talk about and work about and not be fearful to discuss. And that's where, in my own personal situation, I know my dad is denying or wanting to avoid almost in a superstitious sort of way that if I prepare for death, it's going to happen. Therefore, if I don't prepare for it, it won't happen. So it seems like that's his approach. And you know, it's tough to be that strong and say, okay, I know I'm going to die. I got to be ready for it. I need to help my loved ones be ready for it. So I hope that it does get people thinking about what they need to do for themselves, for their children. That's some dialogue in that way.
Wonderful. And Giorgio and Sarah, any final thoughts you wish to add?
Sarah, if you'd like to go first, or I'm happy to jump in.
Well, I just want to thank the festival. When filmmakers have an opportunity to shoot on, the Darcel piece was shot on 4K and used these beautiful lenses, and we don't get the opportunity to see this work large unless a festival is willing to show it. And it was very touching and moving for me to be able to see this piece on this screen, and I hope other people were able to appreciate that as well, because nowadays everybody watches everything on their phones. And to see things that were shot so beautifully in an environment like this is a real treat. So thank you very much.
And Giorgio, real quick.
Absolutely. I just want to echo what they just said, which is that it's a phenomenal festival that I'm so happy to be able to participate in. And that this story for me was about getting to my roots and starting that. But I'm also looking forward to telling Oregon stories. And that's what I'm working on next. And I look forward to sharing with that more in the future.
Wonderful. And we look forward to seeing films from all of you in the future, hopefully again here at the KIFF2023 Film Festival. Thank you so much to all of you for coming by. We have one more block of films to go. This is our Scares, Laughs, and Mystery block. So we have some fun films to close out the evening, and then we will do our awards event starting around 7 o'clock. So please hang with us. And again, thank you for being here at the KIFF2023